The woman in the alley was a cold morning in downtown Los Angeles. The kind of morning where people walk a little faster, hands deep in their pockets. Not to feel the chill, just to avoid the stares, the sounds, the reality. Traffic buzzed past, heels clicked over cracked sidewalks, and no one noticed her. No one ever did. She sat beside a dumpster behind a high-end clothing boutique, her back hunched, thin arms wrapped around her knees. She wore layers of mismatched clothes that didn't look warm. Her hair was tangled, her face hidden behind dirt and long strands. But her eyes, if someone had cared to look, were still alive. Keanu Reeves was walking that same street. He wore a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a faded hoodie. No one recognized him. He liked it that way. He wasn't there to be seen. He had just finished a quiet breakfast at his favorite corner cafe and was taking a detour, hoping to clear his head before another long day of rehearsals. As he passed the alley, he felt something strange. He couldn't explain it, but something made him stop. Maybe it was the way she shifted, the way her shoulders shook like she was silently crying. Maybe it was the way her head was tucked down, like she was trying to disappear. Keanu turned back and walked toward the alley. The woman didn't notice him. She was too busy trying to tie a torn shoelace with trembling fingers. Her hands were raw and red. Keanu crouched beside her slowly, gently, and said, "Hi, do you need anything?" The woman froze. Her eyes looked up, wide and scared, expecting mockery or judgment. "I don't want trouble," she whispered. "You're not in trouble," Keanu said calmly. "I just thought maybe you were cold." She stared at him. Then, like she didn't trust her own voice, she nodded. Without asking further, Keanu took off his hoodie and wrapped it around her. It was simple, not designer, not flashy, just warm. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman hesitated. "Maya." Keanu smiled softly. "I'm Keanu." Her eyes widened. "Like Keanu Reeves," he nodded. She looked away quickly, embarrassed. I don't want anything. I'm not here to beg." "I know," he said gently. "And I'm not here to give out pity. Just thought you could use something better than this alley." Maya's lips trembled, but she said nothing. Keanu stood up and offered his hand. "Come with me." She looked at his hand, unsure, frightened. "Why?" "Because I don't want to walk past you and do nothing," he said. After a long pause, she took his hand. Her touch was light, like she thought she might break him or herself. As they walked through the street together, people began to look. They saw a man they didn't recognize helping a homeless woman who looked like she hadn't been smiled at in weeks. Keanu brought her to a small boutique nearby. It was quiet, elegant, expensive, a place where homeless women usually weren't welcome. Maya froze at the door. "I can't go in there," she said. "Yes, you can," Keanu replied. "You deserve to feel warm and clean and seen." He pushed open the door, and the woman at the counter raised an eyebrow. "Sir, can I help you?" Her voice was polite but stiff. "Yes," Keanu said. "We're shopping today for her." The woman looked at Maya and frowned. "We don't really have. I'll pay double," Keanu interrupted, his voice steady. "Just help her feel human again." The woman blinked. She looked at him closer now. "Wait, are you?" Keanu gave her a small nod. That changed everything. Within minutes, Maya was being shown dresses, jackets, scarves. She stood there awkwardly, too shy to pick anything. She kept whispering, "This is too much, I can't." But Keanu gently nudged her toward the mirror. "Just try one. See yourself the way you were meant to be." Maya stepped into the changing room. When she came out, she was wearing a soft cream-colored coat over clean jeans and boots. Her hair had been gently brushed back by one of the stylists. For the first time in years, she saw her own reflection and didn't feel shame. She stood still in front of the mirror, blinking at the woman looking back. "This isn't me," she said, almost in disbelief. "Yes, it is," Keanu said from behind. "You just forgot." Maya turned toward him. Her voice shook. "Why are you doing this?" Keanu paused. Then he said something he hadn't told anyone in years. "Because someone once did it for me." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she looked away quickly, trying to hide them. As they walked out of the store, she clutched the coat close. She looked like a different person, cleaner, warmer, but still uncertain. They sat at a quiet bench near a park. Maya picked at the hem of her sleeve, her voice low. "I used to be a designer," she said. Keanu turned his head, surprised. "I had a boutique, just a small one," she continued. "I made dresses from scratch. People loved them. I wasn't rich, but I was happy." "What happened?" he asked gently. "My husband," she whispered. "He started gambling, drinking. One day, he left with all the money, the rent, the bills, everything. I lost the shop, then the apartment. I stayed with friends for a while. Then, I just stopped being invited." Her voice cracked, but she kept speaking. "When you lose everything, people stop seeing you. They think it's your fault. They think you're dirty, invisible." Keanu listened, silent. "But this today, no one's ever done anything like this," she said. "Not for me." Keanu looked at her. "It's not about clothes. It's about reminding you that you still matter." She stared at him for a long moment. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," he said. Maya took a deep breath. Her next words changed everything. "You look like someone I used to know," she said slowly. "Someone I designed a suit for years ago. He came to my shop one rainy night. Didn't say who he was. Just wanted something simple, something that felt like home." Keanu stared at her. "I remember now," Maya said. "You wore a gray beanie. You sat by the heater and told me you hated red carpets." A stunned silence fell between them. "You're the man who bought the corduroy jacket," she whispered. Keanu nodded slowly. "I still have it." Maya covered her mouth. Her eyes welled up. "I thought you forgot." "I never did," Keanu said softly. Maya looked away, tears rolling down her cheeks. Not from pain but from being remembered. Whispers of the past. Park bench was quiet, but Maya's mind was loud. Memories rushed back like a flood, some painful, some bittersweet. She could still see that rainy night, years ago, when a stranger walked into her little shop. He didn't speak much, but he listened. He didn't ask for luxury, just comfort. She didn't know then that he was a star. All she saw was a tired man with kind eyes. And now, here he was, sitting beside her, remembering her. "You were the last person who made me feel proud of my work," Maya whispered. Keanu gave her a gentle smile. "That jacket you made, I wore it at the most difficult time of my life. It gave me strength." She looked down, overwhelmed. "I wish I could go back." Keanu paused, then said, "Maybe you don't have to go back. Maybe you just need to start again." Those words felt impossible, like trying to grow a flower in winter. But something about the way he said it made it feel real. Just then, a group of teenagers walked by. One of them laughed and said loudly, "Yo, is that Keanu Reeves with a homeless chick?" Maya froze. Her shoulders tensed. Shame returned like a knife. Keanu stood up calmly and looked at the teens. "She's not a homeless chick. She's a designer. And a human being." The teens looked stunned. One mumbled, "Sorry," before they walked off. Maya stood up slowly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Keanu said. "Because silence is how cruelty survives." Maya looked at him with wet eyes. "How are you like this?" He didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Have you eaten?" Her stomach answered before her voice could. He smiled and led her to a small, local diner nearby. Nothing fancy, just warm food and a booth in the back. As they sat with their plates, Maya hesitated before picking up her fork. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Keanu replied. "Why were you even in my shop that night? You could afford the best designers in the world." Keanu took a bite, thought for a moment, then said quietly, "Because that night, I didn't want to be a star. I just wanted to be a person, and your shop felt human, kind. No flashing lights, no red carpets, just you and a cup of tea and real fabric." Maya smiled softly. "I miss it so much." Keanu looked at her. Then, "Let's bring it back." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "Let's start your work again," he said. "Not charity, not a gift. I'll invest, but it'll be your shop." Maya stared at him like he'd just said the moon was made of cloth. "You don't even know me." "I do," Keanu said. "Maybe not everything, but I know enough." She shook her head. "No one trusts someone like me with that kind of dream anymore." "I do," he said firmly. They finished their meal quietly. Maya kept glancing out the window. like the world might shift around her. She felt hope and fear and confusion, all fighting in her chest. Later, as they walked down a quieter street, Keanu turned to her and asked, "Do you have a safe place to sleep tonight?" She hesitated. "There's a shelter 2 blocks down, but it's full most nights." Keanu nodded. "Come with me." "What?" "I have a guest house, no strings, no expectations, just a bed and a door you can lock." Maya didn't speak. The offer felt too big, too kind. "Just for tonight," he said gently, "until you figure things out." She finally nodded. When they arrived, Maya stood outside the gate for a long time before stepping in. The guest house was small but beautiful. Clean sheets, a bookshelf, a window with light spilling through. "If you need anything, just knock," Keanu said, handing her a key. She stepped inside. She touched the blanket like it was sacred. Her knees gave out, and she sat on the bed, holding the key to her chest, not because of the room but because someone had trusted her. Again. Meanwhile, Keanu sat alone in his living room, staring at the fireplace. He remembered the time after his best friend died, when the world felt so dark. How small acts of kindness helped him breathe again. How a stranger's smile in a coffee shop gave him the will to show up on set. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He just knew how it felt to be alone in a crowd. The next morning, Maya woke up to the sound of birds, real birds, not sirens or shouting or footsteps in alleys. She looked around and felt strange, like she'd borrowed someone else's life. She stepped outside and found a tray of breakfast at her door. A note beside it said, "Take your time, but don't give up." She sat on the steps, eating quietly. Then she walked over to the garden, where Keanu was trimming a bush. "Thank you," she said. He looked up and smiled. "Ready to start again?" Maya nodded, not fully sure, but ready to try. Later that day, Keanu introduced her to a local nonprofit that helped women restart small businesses. He made no promises. He didn't rush her. He just showed her doors and let her choose whether to walk through them. In the coming days, Maya visited the studio. She held fabric again. She drew on a sketchpad. Slowly, the spark returned. One night, as they sat sipping tea, Maya whispered, "You saved me." Keanu shook his head. "No, I just reminded you that you could still save yourself." The first sketch. It had been years since Maya held a pencil to paper for anything other than a scribbled list or a lost thought. But now, with a warm lamp beside her, a clean table in front, and soft music in the background, she sat still staring at a blank sketchpad. Her fingers trembled, not from cold this time, but from fear. Fear that maybe the spark was gone, that maybe the fire in her hands had burned out long ago. But then she closed her eyes, took a breath, and drew the first line. It was slow, hesitant, but it was hers. In our past, maybe too, she didn't notice. She was somewhere else now, in the world of color and fabric and curves that told stories without words. When she finally looked down, the paper held something that made her heart ache. A soft, elegant silhouette of a woman standing tall, wearing a simple gown that flowed like water. Strong, graceful, dignified. Maya stared at it and whispered, "She's who I wanted to be." The next morning, Keanu walked into the guest house, holding a cup of coffee. He found her asleep at the table, her cheek resting on her arm, the sketchpad still open. He saw the drawing, paused, then smiled. When Maya woke up, the coffee was warm and waiting, and a sticky note beside the sketch. "Read, this is where it begins." That afternoon, he introduced her to a woman named Lana, designer and entrepreneur who ran a local women's co-op. Lana was sharp, kind, and not easily impressed. But when Maya showed her the sketch, Lana leaned back and said, "Who made this?" Maya hesitated. "I did. It's rough. Lana cut her off. "No, it's real. It has emotion. It's not just design, it's story. And story sells." Maya blinked, not sure how to respond. Lana looked at her again. "I can help you get this made, but you'll need to work hard. No shortcuts." "I can work," Maya said quickly. "Good." Lana replied, "Because I don't hand out sympathy. I offer opportunity." Keanu watched the whole exchange quietly. He could see something shifting in Maya's eyes. Not just hope but fire. Days turned into weeks. Maya began visiting Lana's workshop every morning. At first, just to watch, then to stitch, then to lead. She worked quietly, but with purpose. Her hands remembered what her heart had forgotten how to create, how to build beauty from thread and cloth. She was no longer the woman in the alley. But not everyone was kind. One afternoon, a client came into the workshop, a wealthy woman in pearls and high heels. She looked at Maya and whispered to Lana, "Who's she? Looks like she walked in from the street." Maya heard it. Her stomach tightened, but she didn't look away. Lana smiled calmly. "That woman just designed the piece you're wearing. If you want to insult her, at least take off her work first." The woman flushed red. "I didn't realize." Maya stepped forward, her voice calm. "It's okay. You don't have to recognize me. The work speaks for itself." It was the first time in years she'd spoken with that much strength. After the woman left, Keanu, who had come to drop off some supplies, turned to Maya and said, "You didn't let her words own you." Maya nodded. "Not this time." That night, she sat at the window in the guest house and stared up at the stars. She didn't cry. She didn't crumble. She just breathed, deeply, freely. But as her hands rested on her lap, something hard pressed against her palm, the key Keanu had given her on the first night. She still carried it. Even though the door was always open. She thought about giving it back, about saying goodbye. But something inside her held back. She didn't want to leave. Yet, not until she was sure she could stand without leaning. The next day, she finished a full dress from her sketch. It was soft blue, simple but elegant, with flowing lines and delicate hand stitching. Lana held it up and nodded. "This belongs on a runway." Maya laughed. "A runway?" Lana looked serious. "There's a small show in 2 weeks, local, but well attended. You ready to put your name back out there?" Maya hesitated. The thought of facing lights, cameras, and strangers again made her breath catch. But then Keanu walked in, holding a garment bag. "You'll need this." She opened it. Inside was a jacket, a corduroy jacket. Her corduroy jacket. She touched it with shaking hands. "You kept it?" "Of course," he said. "It reminded me who I am. Maybe now it can remind you who you are." Maya looked up. Her voice broke. "I'm scared." "So was I," Keanu replied. "But we show up anyway." She wore that jacket to the workshop every day for the next week. It became her armor, and slowly, her name Maya began to echo through the co-op like a quiet wind. Before a storm. A woman who had once disappeared was becoming visible again, and people were starting to notice. The runway night. 2 weeks passed faster than Maya expected. The show was scheduled for Friday evening in a community arts hall. It wasn't Paris, it wasn't New York, but to Maya, it was just as big. Her name was on the list of designers. Her dress was set to close the show, the finale piece. As the big day drew closer, nerves crept in like shadows at sunset. She started second-guessing her stitches. She checked the hem a dozen times. She even questioned the shade of blue she had picked. What if it wasn't enough? What if no one clapped? Keanu could sense the pressure building in her. The morning of the show, he walked into the guest house and placed a small note on her dresser. It read, "They don't need to clap. Just make them feel." Maya held that note in her hands for a long time. The backstage of the event hall was buzzing. Makeup artists, models, assistants all moving in circles. Maya stood in a corner, holding the garment bag like it was glass. When Lana approached her, Maya whispered, "I feel like I don't belong here." Lana replied, "Good. The ones who feel like they belong too much forget to be real." Then she touched Maya's shoulder. "Remember, this isn't about proving yourself. This is about showing yourself." Just before her model went out, Maya took the dress out of the bag. The lights above made the blue shimmer softly, like water under moonlight. The model stepped into it, and Maya zipped it up slowly, carefully. She stepped back and nodded. "You look like freedom." The music shifted, the spotlight moved, and then the dress was on the runway. Maya held her breath. The room went quiet. The fabric moved like a whisper across the floor. Simple, elegant, powerful. The crowd watched in stillness. No dramatic feathers, no glittering stones, just grace, just truth. When the model reached the end of the runway and turned, a small clap began. Then another, and another. By the time she returned backstage, the room was filled with applause. Maya's hands covered her mouth, not to hide the tears, but to hold them. Lana walked up behind her. You made them feel. After the show ended, a woman in a crisp business suit approached Maya. Your piece. It spoke to me. Maya blinked. Thank you. I run a boutique downtown, the woman said. I'd like to feature your work, if you're open to it. Maya nodded slowly. I'd love that. Outside the venue, Keanu was leaning against the wall, hands in his pockets, waiting quietly. When Maya walked out, her jacket folded over one arm and her smile trembling with disbelief. He looked up and said, How'd it go? She ran toward him and hugged him tightly. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she whispered, I think I'm really back. Keanu smiled. You never left. You were just hiding. That night, they sat on the roof of the guest house, looking out over the lights of the city. Maya rested her head on her knees, her voice soft. Do you think it's too late to have a life again? Keanu looked at her, thoughtful. I think. Life has been waiting for you to come home. Maya's eyes glistened. What if I fail? Then you learn, he said, and try again. She nodded, wiping her cheek with her sleeve. Keanu handed her something wrapped in tissue. Open it. She unfolded it slowly. Inside was a needle, silver, smooth, and etched with one word, Maya. You gave me strength, Keanu said. I wanted to give you something that reminds you your hands still have power. She didn't speak. She just held it tight. A few days later, she visited the downtown boutique. The manager had already framed her runway dress sketch on the wall, next to a plaque with her name. The boutique wanted a collection. 5 new pieces for their winter display. Maya stood in the corner and watched people walk past her. Designs. Not knowing her story, not knowing where she had been, and she liked it that way. They weren't clapping for her pain, they were clapping for her work. But not everything was perfect. One evening, she passed by a man on the street holding a bottle in a paper bag. He shouted at her, Maya. She stopped cold. It was him. Her ex-husband. He was thinner. His eyes were sunken, his face aged by regret and poor choices. I knew it. He slurred. You think you're better now, huh? Fancy clothes and your name on walls. But you're nothing without me. You never were. Maya stared at him. Years ago, those words would have shattered her. But now, she took a deep breath and said, I wasn't nothing. I was broken, and you left me there. But I put myself back together. He tried to laugh, but it cracked into silence. Take care of yourself, she said. Then she turned and walked away. When she got home, Keanu was outside watering the plants. He looked at her and saw the shake in her hands. You okay? Maya nodded. I saw my past, and I walked past it. He gave her a quiet nod of respect. That's not easy, but it's necessary, she said. That night, she sat at her desk again, sketchpad open, pencil in hand. This time, she didn't hesitate. The woman she drew stood even taller, her eyes wide open, her dress bold and flowing in the wind. A woman no longer hiding. A woman finally seen. Asterisk the thread that holds a week later. Maya's life changed again, this time not with applause or tears, but with a letter. It arrived at the boutique, sealed in a gold-trimmed envelope. She opened it slowly, hands careful. Inside was an invitation. You are cordially invited to present your work at the annual Hearts and Hands Gala, celebrating artists who have rebuilt from hardship. Maya stared at the letter for a long time. The gala was huge, televised, attended by celebrities, designers, philanthropists. It was not the kind of place someone like her ever expected to be invited to, but there it was, with her name printed in soft ink. She walked out of the boutique and made her way straight to the garden outside Keanu's guest house, where he was trimming roses. I got invited to the Hearts and Hands Gala, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Keanu looked up, blinked once, and smiled slowly. You're ready. She sat down beside him. But what if they look at me and see the woman who used to sleep behind a dumpster? Then they'll also see the woman who didn't stay there, he replied. Maya took a deep breath. I want to make something new, something that tells the whole story. Keanu nodded. Then do it. No masks, no covers, just truth. The next few days were quiet but full. Maya worked late into the night, drawing, sewing, starting over, drawing again. She didn't want this dress to just be beautiful. She wanted it to carry the weight of her journey, the pain, the courage, the silence, the scream, the hope. Her fabric of choice was unexpected, raw cotton, soft, unfinished, textured with slight imperfections. She layered it with silk, but not to hide the flaws, just to honor them. The dress flowed like it had something to say. It shimmered not with jewels, but with hand-stitched lines, each stitch like a scar turned to strength. The night before the gala, Maya stood in front of a mirror wearing her creation. Her reflection took her breath away, not because she looked like someone else, but because she finally looked like herself. Keanu knocked gently at the door and stepped in. She turned toward him. "What do you think?" He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, with quiet awe, he said, "You look like survival." The gala took place in a ballroom lit by gold chandeliers and buzzing with voices and clinking glasses. Maya arrived early. Keanu walked beside her, his presence steady and grounding. She wore her dress with quiet pride, not arrogance, just peace. Inside, people turned to look. Some whispered, some approached. A woman with a microphone asked, "Can you tell us about the story behind your dress?" Maya took a breath and said, "It's made from the pieces of a woman who once disappeared and found herself again in thread and light." The host smiled. "That's beautiful." Then something unexpected happened. As she turned, Maya saw someone across the hall who made her stomach twist. It was the woman from the boutique, the one who once whispered cruelly about her, looking like she walked in from the street. Except now, the woman was wearing Maya's design. They locked eyes. There was silence between them. And then the woman walked over. "I didn't realize it was you," she said softly. "I didn't know back then," Maya interrupted gently. "You don't have to explain. You wore the dress. It means something." The woman nodded, her voice quiet. "It made me feel strong." "Thank you." Maya simply smiled and said, "I'm glad it reached you." Keanu watched the whole thing from a distance. His heart felt full. As the evening continued, the event's organizer took the stage. "Tonight," she announced, "we honor someone who didn't just design fashion but rebuilt her own life stitch by stitch." She looked at Maya. Double quotes, "Maya, will you join us?" The room burst into applause as Maya walked slowly to the stage. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were steady. She took the mic and looked out at the sea of people. "I don't know how to speak in big words," she began, her voice clear, "but I do know how to speak with my hands. I used to believe I had nothing left. No home, no voice, no future. But someone reminded me that broken doesn't mean ruined. It just means real, and I chose to rebuild." She paused, then added, "I used to think being seen meant being perfect. Now I know being seen means being honest." The room was still. Keanu wiped his eyes quietly. After the speech, people lined up to meet her. Some wanted to shake her hand. Some just wanted to say thank you. One woman, holding a teenager by the hand, said, "My daughter wants to be a designer, but we live in a shelter." She thought it meant her dream was gone. Now she knows it's not. Maya knelt down and said to the girl, "The dream is still there, even if it's hiding." Later that night, when they returned home, Maya sat outside on the porch, her heels off, her head leaning back against the wall. Keanu joined her, handing her a glass of tea. She looked up at the stars. "Do you think the universe hears us when we cry?" she asked. Keanu took a sip and replied, "I think it hears us louder when we keep going." Maya smiled. "I don't feel invisible anymore." He looked at her and said, "That's because you've become unforgettable." Full circle. Months passed, and Maya's designs quietly took the fashion world by storm, not through flashy ads or glamorous events, but through heartfelt stories whispered from one person to another. Boutiques began seeking her out. Her name became known for simple elegance, truth, and quiet strength. Her designs were worn by women who wanted more than just beauty, they wanted meaning. Maya had moved into a small studio of her own, but she still visited Keanu often. They shared tea and talked about dreams, fears, and memories. He remained her anchor, reminding her to stay humble, true, and grounded. But life had one more surprise waiting. One chilly afternoon, as Maya closed up her boutique downtown, a woman approached her. She looked worn, tired, eyes heavy with shadows of struggle. Maya paused. There was something familiar in those eyes. "Can I help you?" Maya asked softly. The woman hesitated, looking down. "You might not remember me, but I used to own the store next to yours. Years ago." Maya's heart froze. Of course she remembered. Her name was Julia. When Maya lost everything, Julia had quietly watched her fall apart from a distance, never offering a hand. She'd been afraid to help, afraid Maya's misfortune might be contagious. "Julia," Maya said gently, "I do remember you." Julia's eyes filled with shame. "I didn't know who else to come to. I lost everything, my business, my husband. I've been sleeping in my car." Maya's heart squeezed painfully. She understood exactly how that felt, the shame, the fear, the invisibility. "Come inside," she said softly. "Let's get you warm." Inside the studio, Maya made tea and sat quietly with Julia. Julia's hands trembled around the cup. "I don't deserve your kindness," Julia whispered. "I did nothing to help you." Maya met her eyes steadily. "Kindness isn't earned, it's given." Julia's tears spilled over. "How did you forgive everyone who turned their back on you?" Maya smiled softly. "I forgave because holding anger would have meant I never moved forward." Later that night, Maya called Keanu, her voice thoughtful. "I think I want to help Julia." He smiled knowingly. "Then do it." The next morning, Maya offered Julia a small job in her boutique, nothing fancy, just enough to start again. Julia accepted quietly, deeply humbled. Weeks later, Maya was preparing for a major showcase. This one was different, bigger, brighter, the kind that drew international attention. Reporters had gathered backstage, eager to interview her. They had heard her story, homeless woman turned successful designer, and wanted the dramatic details. Maya stepped onto the small platform, microphones pointed at her. One reporter asked, "What was the turning point? When did you realize your life was changing?" Maya smiled softly. "When someone saw me not as who I had become but who I still could be." Another asked, "What advice would you give to others facing hardship?" "Remember that hardship is temporary, but your story is forever," she said clearly. "Don't let a dark chapter define the entire book." After the press left, Maya walked backstage to prepare the models. Keanu stood quietly nearby, smiling proudly. Just then, Julia came over. She had tears in her eyes. "Maya, thank you," she whispered, "not just for the job, but for giving me hope again." Maya hugged her warmly. "You deserve a second chance." Julia nodded. "So do you. Thank you for showing me it's possible." The showcase began. Maya's designs moved elegantly down the runway, each piece a testament to resilience, strength, and grace. Applause filled the hall, louder and warmer than ever before. Then, as the final piece, Maya's own dress from the gala, made its way down the runway, the audience rose to their feet. Maya's eyes filled with tears, not tears of sadness, but gratitude. The full circle moment was complete. Afterward, backstage, Keanu came to her side. "You changed the world tonight," he said softly. "No," Maya whispered, smiling through tears. "Just my corner of it." Later, when everyone had gone home and the lights had dimmed, Maya and Keanu walked outside. Together, the night sky was clear, stars glittering brightly overhead. "Do you ever think about the day we met?" Maya asked softly. "All the time," Keanu replied gently. "It changed both of us." "Why did you stop that day?" she whispered. Keanu paused thoughtfully. "Because I've been unseen before, and sometimes all we need is one person who stops and really sees us." Maya took his hand. "You gave me that." He squeezed her hand softly. "And you gave me proof that kindness still works." They stood quietly for a while, breathing in the cool night air, feeling the quiet magic of the moment. Then Maya said, "I want to do more. I want to help others who feel invisible. Can we?" Keanu smiled warmly. "Of course. Let's show others the power of being seen." Together, they decided to open a small foundation, one dedicated to helping people rebuild their lives through creativity, support, and dignity. They called it Second Thread. As the foundation grew, Maya spoke openly about her journey. She visited shelters, community centers, and schools, sharing her story. People listened not because she was famous, but because she was real. She was proof that life could change, stitch by stitch, step by step, On the anniversary of the day they met, Maya and Keanu stood together in front of the new foundation building. People from all walks of life gathered around them, smiling, hopeful, inspired. Maya took a deep breath and spoke clearly, softly. Life isn't a straight line. It's threads woven together, sometimes tangled, sometimes torn. But every thread matters, every stitch counts, because together they form something beautiful. The crowd erupted into applause, smiling and cheering. Afterward, Keanu turned to her quietly. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she said softly, smiling warmly. "We did it." They hugged tightly, knowing their journey had just begun, a journey made from kindness, resilience, humility, and respect. Maya's story wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to everyone who felt unseen. It was proof that no matter how hidden someone might feel, hope was always there, waiting to be found again. And sometimes, all it took was one person, one moment to change everything.